A very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Rushpeta, and I'll be teaching second year political science. So first, let us discuss the weightage for the chapters. I strongly feel that if you are learning chapter wise according to the weightage, you will be able to crack your exams. So the first chapter, that is Indian Constitution, you will get 1 LAQ, 1 SAQ, and 2 VSAQs. The weightage for this chapter is 19 marks. The second chapter is Fundamental Rights and Directive Principles of State Policy. You will get 1 LAQ. Total marks for this chapter is 12. The third chapter is Union Law. You will get 1 SAQ and 2. Again, the weightage for this chapter is 9. In this chapter, one is the weightage for this chapter. Again, this important chapter, central state issues. We will get 2 SAQs and 1 VSAQ. Weightage for the chapter is 12. Next, if the chapter is total count, you will get 1 SAQ. Weightage for the chapter is 9. The seventh chapter is elections during India. This is the India chapter. It has got 19 marks. You will get 1 SAQ, 1 SAQ, and 2 VSAQ. The eighth chapter is contemporary issues in India. You will get 1 SAQ, 2 VSAQs. Weightage for the chapter is 9. Ninth chapter is the most important chapter, and it has got weightage of 26 marks. So if you are studying this chapter, it's 26 marks. The next chapter, state government. The weightage for this chapter is 9 marks. You can get 1. And the last chapter, that is India and the world. In this chapter, you will study about United Nations Organization, foreign policy of India. The weightage for this chapter is 9 marks. You will get 1 SAQ and 2 VSAQ. So let us start with the first chapter, Indian Constitution, historical context. As I told you earlier, the weightage for this chapter is 19 marks. So the most important questions are, in LAQ, you can expect salient features. This is the most repeated question, salient features of Indian Constitution. And coming to short answers, you have causes for the birth of Indian national movement. Then you have programs adapted during non-cooperation movement and Independence Act of 1947. These are some of the important questions from this chapter. If you are thorough with this question, you can easily score 19 marks. Now coming to very short answers, you have moderates, methods of extremists, Simon Commission, Civil Disobedience Movement, Minto-Morley Reforms Act, Constituent Assembly, Drafting Committee, and Preamble. These are the most important questions. You can expect 2 questions from this. Now let us discuss the salient features of Indian Constitution. Now, Indian Constitution is considered as a unique constitution. Why it is unique? Because it has been prepared after a detailed study of constitutions of the world. The Constituent Assembly has prepared this constitution. So, what is Constituent Assembly? Constituent Assembly is a body of people who has prepared the constitution. So Indian Constitution, it is a written constitution. Okay, it was prepared by the body of people called Constituent Assembly. So let us discuss the features of Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution, it is a written constitution. Okay, Indian Constitution, it is a written constitution. Written means it is written in a single document, in a proper order. So Indian Constitution, when it was prepared, it had 395 articles. At present, it has got 448 articles. Okay, presently it has got 448 articles, 12 schedules, and 25 parts. Indian Constitution, it is divided in 25 parts. Okay, Indian Constitution, it is divided in 25 parts, 12 schedules, and 448 articles. It gives details about the powers and functions of the government. Okay, at national level, that is central government, state government, and the government at local level. So how the government functions, okay, that is clearly mentioned in the Constitution. It also gives details about the rights and duties of the citizens. So everything it is written in detail. So we say Indian Constitution, it is written and detailed. Is it clear? Am I clear with the first point? Let us deal with the second point. Indian Constitution, it is the combination of rigidity and flexibility. So if you remember, in first year, you have studied about Constitution. You have studied that if a Constitution is written, it is rigid. That means it cannot be changed easily. And if a Constitution is unwritten, then it can be changed easily. It is flexible. But when it comes to Indian Constitution, it is no doubt a written Constitution. It is written in a single document. It is written in a single document, but it has the features of countries which are following written as well as unwritten Constitution. So Indian Constitution, it consists the features of rigid Constitution as well as flexible Constitution. That's why we say it is the combination of rigidity and flexibility. So when we have to change the Constitution, we have to follow three methods here. Rigid method, based on the provision which we are changing. If it is from the written Constitution or rigid Constitution, we will use rigid method. And if it is a flexible Constitution, we use flexible method. And sometimes we need to combine both the methods, that is rigid method and, quasi-rigid and quasi-flexible method. So Indian Constitution, it can be changed in three methods: rigid method, flexible method, quasi-rigid and quasi-flexible method. Coming to the next point, unitary and federal features. So what is a unitary government? The unitary government means you will have only one government throughout the country. State governments does not exist. If at all there are state governments, they derive powers from the central government. So Indian Constitution, it has adapted features of both unitary and federal government. So what is a federal government now? Federal government means you will have two governments, central government and the state government. So when we talk about Indian Constitution, it has adapted features of both unitary as well as federal government. It is federal in normal times, but it becomes unitary during emergency. India is a federal country. In normal times, it is federal, but during emergency, it becomes unitary. So what are the features of unitary government? Let us see. Single citizenship. Irrespective of your place of birth, you are called as Indian. So it is a feature of unitary government. Then single election commission are some of the unitary features, whereas bicameralism. Now, what is bicameralism? Bicameralism means legislature having two houses, upper house and the lower house. So we have adapted bicameral legislature at the central level. And there is division of powers between center and the state. So these are the features of federal government. These are the features of federal government. Now, coming to the next point, that is parliamentary government. Indian Constitution has adapted parliamentary system of government at national and state level. So what do you mean by parliamentary system? In parliamentary system, we will have two executives, real and nominal executive. So Prime Minister and his ministers, they are the real executives at the national level. Chief Minister and his ministers, they are the real executives at state level. Similarly, President is the nominal executive at the national level, and Governor is the nominal executive at the state level. So in parliamentary system, I told you there are two types of executives. So when we say two types of executives, there exists Prime Minister's leadership, and there is also collective responsibility. Now, what is this collective responsibility? Collective responsibility means Prime Minister and all his ministers are responsible, are answerable to the Parliament. Prime Minister and all his ministers, they are collectively answerable to the Parliament. Okay, I hope I am clear with the parliamentary form of government. Let us now discuss the another feature, that is independent judiciary. The Indian Constitution has adapted integrated. Integrated means we have one judicial system throughout the country, and it is independent from the control of legislature and executive. Integrated means we follow one system throughout the country, and it is independent from the control of the legislature and the executive. Then the another important feature is directive principles of state policy. Now, this directive principles, what do you mean by directive principles of state policy? See, the main function of the government is to make policies for the welfare of the people. So directive principles are nothing but the instructions given to the government for making the policies. Directive principles are the instructions given to the government by the Constitution for making policies. So these directive principles are discussed in part 4 of the Constitution from Articles 36 to 51. I told you our Constitution is divided into 12 parts. So the part 4 of our Constitution from Article 36 to 51 deals with the directive principles of state policy. Okay, I told you it is the instructions given to the government by the Constitution for making the policies and programs for the welfare of the people. Then the next feature is fundamental rights. Now, Indian Constitution has guaranteed 6 fundamental rights to all its citizens, irrespective of place of birth, caste, gender, etc. So these fundamental rights are discussed in part 3. Fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are discussed in part 3 from Articles 12 to 35. Part 3 of our Constitution, Article 12 to 35, deals with the fundamental rights like right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to religion, cultural and educational rights, okay, right to constitutional remedies. All these are the fundamental rights given to every citizen, irrespective of their place of birth, caste, religion, gender, etc. So, along with rights, the citizens has got some duties. So they are the fundamental duties. Fundamental duties were added in the Indian Constitution through 42nd Amendment. Okay, it was added in part 4. So whenever you see this letter capital A, okay, this capital A, it shows that amendment was made into it. So part 4 was amended and fundamental duties were added into it in Article 51A. So Article 51A, Part 4A of Indian Constitution deals with the fundamental duties. And this fundamental duties, through 42nd Amendment, 10 duties were added. Again, 86th Amendment added the 11th fundamental duties. The Indian citizens has got 11 fundamental duties like respecting national flag, national anthem, safeguarding the property, then preserving the nature, protecting the nature. Then it is the fundamental duty of the parents to get their children educated up to the age of 14 years. So all these are the fundamental duties. Then the next is single citizenship. See, this is one of the features of unitary form of government. I told you, every person, irrespective of place of birth, where he is born in India, whether he is born in Kashmir or Kerala or Hyderabad, anywhere, he is considered as the citizen of India. His regional identity does not have any importance. It is the feature of a unitary form of government. But India has adapted this feature to promote the unity among the Indians. To promote unity among the Indians, Indian Constitution has adapted single citizenship. So every person who is born in India will be an Indian, irrespective of the region he is born. The next is universal adult franchise. What do you mean by universal adult franchise? See, universal means all the citizens, adult who are above the 18 years, franchise is your right to vote. So universal adult franchise means all the adult citizens, all the citizens who are above the age of 18 years, they enjoy right to vote, irrespective of their caste, religion, gender, etc. So that is universal adult franchise. You can just remember this. Universal means all. Adult means above 18 years. So all citizens who are above the 18 years, they enjoy right to vote. So the word franchise means is your right to vote. Next is bicameralism. Another feature of Indian Constitution is bicameralism. So it is the feature of federal government. So Indian Constitution has adapted bicameral legislature. That means we have two houses. The central legislature, that is Parliament, has got two houses. Lok Sabha, it is the lower house, and Rajya Sabha is the upper house. So what is bicameralism? Bicameralism is nothing but the legislature, it has got two houses, upper house and the lower house. So the central legislature, the Indian Parliament, it is bicameral. It has got two houses. Lok Sabha, it is the representation of people. We call it as lower house. Rajya Sabha, it is the representation of states. We call it as upper house. Coming to the state government, only 6 states in India have got bicameral legislature. That means the state legislature has only 6 states have bicameral legislature. They have two houses, Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. So Telangana is one of those 6 states. Then coming to the last point, that is noble aims and objectives. Okay, so Indian Constitution, it provides liberty. If you see the preamble, what is preamble? It is the introduction to the Constitution. The Constitution of India guarantees liberty, that is freedom, equality. Equality means there shall not be any discrimination. Fraternity, that is brotherhood and justice to all its citizens. Indian Constitution was prepared with an aim to provide liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice to all its citizens. So if you see the preamble of Indian Constitution, it guarantees liberty, equality. What is liberty? Freedom. Equality, there is no discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, gender. Fraternity is brotherhood, and justice is no person should be punished except for the violation of the laws. And the most important point is India is a Sovereign. What is Sovereign? Sovereign means independent. It has its own independence. Socialist, the government, it works for the welfare of the people. Secular, here we don't have any official religion. Okay, there is no religion is given importance in India. Then India is democratic. The people, they elect their representatives, and India is a republican country. So what do you mean by a republican country? Here, the head of the state, the constitutional head of the state, that is the president of India, he is also elected. Okay, indirectly, there is no hereditary system followed. There is no hereditary system followed for the election of the head of the state. So we say that India is a republican country. So India became Sovereign, independent. It is socialist because the government works for the welfare of the people. It is secular because we don't have an official religion. It is democratic. The people of the country elect their representatives. It is republic because the head of the state is elected. Hereditary system is not followed here. Okay. So the representatives in India, the representatives of the people, the members of the parliament, the members of the assembly, they vote for the president. He is elected indirectly. There is no hereditary system followed. That's why we say India is a republican country. I hope you understood this features of Indian Constitution. In exam, you can write any 10 points from these 13 points. Please make sure that you are learning these points. You are writing. Don't just read the answer. Develop an habit of writing. Okay. Next, we'll move to short answers. Causes for the birth of Indian national movement. This is another important question. They'll ask you to write any 4 causes for the birth of Indian national movement. So we all know that Britishers were ruling India before 1947. So what happened? Why we revolted against British and we demanded independence? What are the causes for the birth of Indian national movement? If we see the Indian national movement, it took place from 1957 to 1947. Okay, so there are various reasons, various causes. Let us see. The first one is British rule. The British rule, it had both positive and negative impact on us. It has positive and negative impact. Positively, if you see, they have developed India. They introduced technology, railways, post, telegraph, everything in India. But it was not for the people of India. It was for themselves. But at the same time, the tax money which they were collecting from Indians, they were using it for the development of England. The tax money which they collected from India, they used it for the development of England. So this angered the people of India and they started freedom struggle against the Britishers. So British rule, no doubt, it had a positive aspect. They developed India, but not for Indians, for themselves. They developed India for themselves. Okay. Am I clear with this point? Let us see the next point. First is the Great Revolt, the revolt of 1857. In 1857, the Indian Sipahis who were in British army, they revolted against the Britishers for the first time. Okay, they revolted against Britishers for the first time. And Indian rulers like Jhansi Lakshmi Bai, Tatya Tope and all, they also revolted against the exploitative policies of the Britishers. Indian Sipahis like Mangal Pandey, he was in British army. He was an Indian soldier for British army. they revolted against the Britishers, though we could not defeat them, but it created a feeling of patriotism among the Indians. Okay, it created a feeling of patriotism among the Indians. Am I clear with this? And we opposed Britishers against their exploitative policies. I hope these 2 points are clear. British rule, it has positive and negative impact. They developed India, but at the same time, the tax money which they collected from India used for the development of England. And the second was Great Revolt of 1857, where Indian Sipahis, they revolted against the Britishers because of their exploitative and discriminative policies. Let us see the next point, that is English education. So Britishers, they started English medium in India. Okay, and the Indians who went to this English medium schools and colleges, they learned about various political concepts like liberty, equality, democracy, etc. Till that time, we did not have any idea about these concepts, liberty, equality, democracy. We never knew about it. So after the introduction of English medium schools and colleges, the Indians who went to this English medium schools and colleges, they came to know about these political concepts, and they realized that there is no liberty, equality, or democracy in India. And these educated Indians, they started demand for the self-rule and freedom. Self-rule and freedom. They demanded for the self-rule and freedom. Then the next point is press, that is newspapers. Okay, during the national movement, our national leaders like Motilal Nehru and others, they have started newspapers in local languages. And newspapers like Hindu, Kesari, okay, they played a very important role in spreading the nationalist feelings among the Indians. That means they were in those times, as these papers were published in local languages, the national leaders, they could, publish the exploitative policies of the Britishers in the newspapers, and which encouraged the people to join the Indian national movement. Next is economic exploitation. So there was drain of wealth. Okay, here what happened? Britishers, they exploited India economically. They used to buy raw material from Indians, and they used to transfer that raw material to England. Okay, they used to buy the raw material at cheaper cost. They used to send the raw material to England, and there they used to make machine-made goods. Okay, and again, these British goods, the machine-made goods, were sold in India for high price. Okay, this had an impact on small-scale industries. Okay, our small-scale industries, they could not compete with the machine-made goods of England. Okay, machine-made goods from England. So this resulted in large scale of unemployment. Many people, they became unemployed. Okay, so all the artisans, they joined Indian national movement. So these are some of the reasons or causes for the birth of Indian national movement. I hope I'm clear with this. Let us move to the next topic, that is, what are the various programs adapted during non-cooperation movement? Now, this non-cooperation movement, it was started by Mahatma Gandhi in 1920. Okay, it was from 1920 to 1922. This movement was started against the Jallianwala Bagh incident. Okay, where many innocent people were killed by General Dyer. So Gandhiji, he started this non-cooperation movement. He decided that now we are not going to cooperate with the Britishers. So this non-cooperation movement has two types of programs: positive program and negative program. So if you see the positive programs, we decided to use the Swadeshi goods. Now, what do you mean by Swadeshi goods? Goods which are made in India. Okay. Then at that time, they collected 1 crore rupees fund for implementing the activities of the non-cooperation. To run the movement, they needed money. So they collected 1 crore rupees and they distributed 20 lakh charkhas to the unemployed Indians. The Indians who were unemployed, for them, they have distributed 20 lakh charkhas. And they encouraged national education plans. And Congress legislative bodies replaced British legislative bodies. So these British legislative bodies were replaced by the Congress legislative bodies. So these were the positive programs. Let us see the negative programs. Under negative programs, we boycotted the foreign goods. We started boycotting British courts, boycotting the elections, resigning from the membership of the local bodies. The Indians who were members of the local bodies, they resigned from the membership, and they also boycotted the meetings sponsored by the Britishers. So these were the negative programs. Now, Gandhiji stopped this movement in 1922 due to the violence that took place in Chauri Chaura village of Uttar Pradesh. 1922. See, this movement Gandhiji started because of a violent incident that occurred in Jallianwala Bagh. But again in 1922, this movement was stopped because of a violence that took place in Uttar Pradesh, a village called Chauri Chaura, where the mob has burnt policemen. Let us discuss the next topic, that is Independence Act of India 1947. So Independence of India Act 1947 was the last act. It was the last act made by the British government for India. So it was made by the combined efforts of Lord Mountbatten. Lord Mountbatten, he was the last Governor General of India, and then Prime Minister. That time, the Prime Minister of England was Clement Attlee. Okay, Clement Attlee, he was the Prime Minister of England, and Lord Mountbatten, he was the last Governor General of India. Because of the efforts of these two people, Independence Act of 1947, Independence of India Act 1947 was made. Okay, so what are the main provisions? Okay, the act says that India and Pakistan shall be constituted as two separate independent states. So according to this act, two states will be formed. One will be India and other is Pakistan. Then for both the countries, for India and Pakistan, two constituent assemblies shall be formed. Two constituent assemblies shall be formed. Now, these constituent assemblies were formed to prepare the constitution. To prepare the constitution. Then the British supremacy over British India and the princely states shall cease to exist. That means the Britishers will not have any control over any part of the country. And princely states like Hyderabad state, Gwalior, Mysore, Kashmir, okay, these were the princely states. They would free to join India or Pakistan. If they want to join India, they can join, or if they want to join Pakistan, they can join Pakistan, or if they want to remain independent, they can remain independent. Britishers will not have any control on any of the princely state or any part of the country. And the territories, that is boundaries of both the nations, were defined. Okay, through this act, they defined the territories of both the nations. So this was Independence Act of 1947. These were some of the important provisions. Let us now move to the Very short answers. Now, first is moderates. So, who are the moderates? See, our Indian national movement is divided into three stages: moderate stage, extremist stage, and Gandhian stage. So, these moderates, they never opposed the Britishers. They always maintained good relations with the Britishers. They felt that if they are having good relations with the Britishers, they can demand self-rule. So, moderate stage, it was from 1885 to 1905. Now, these moderate leaders, they had faith in the Britishers. They never opposed the British and cooperated with them. Okay. These moderate leaders, they did not oppose the Britishers. Whenever they had any demand, they used to request. The method was request and petition. They demanded more reforms and representation to Indians in the administration. So what was the demand of moderates? They demanded reforms and representation to Indians in the administration. So who were the important leaders? Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale were some of the important leaders. As many reforms were made during this period, we call this moderate stage as reforms era. It is also called as reforms era because many reforms were made in the administration. Okay, am I clear with this? Let us move to the next topic. That is extremist. Just now I told you, Indian national movement, it is divided into three stages. The second stage of Indian national movement is extremist. So they were completely against the Britishers. They never believed in the cooperation. Okay, they always opposed the Britishers. So the period between 1906 to 1919 was extremist period. So they had their own unique method. What was the method? They boycotted British goods. Okay, they boycotted government offices. Okay, and they used to organize Bandh and Hartals. You know what are Bandh and Hartals? Then they always encouraged the local education and use of Swadeshi goods. These were the methods adapted by the extremists. Now, let us move to the next question, that is Simon Commission. So Sir John Simon, okay, he was appointed as the chairman of this commission. Now, why this commission was appointed? This commission was appointed to suggest measures, okay, in the progress of the reforms. I told you, the first stage, moderate stage, it was a reforms era. Many reforms were made. So in 1919, okay, to suggest the to suggest the measures for the progress in the reforms, the British government appointed Simon Commission. Okay, so this Simon Commission had 7 Englishmen. If you remember, in moderate stage, I told you, moderates, they demanded more representation to the Indians. But if you see, the Simon Commission had only Englishmen. Okay, it had 7 members and all 7 members were Britishers. Okay, so Congress decided to boycott this Simon Commission as it did not have any Indian member. As it did not have any Indian member in it, the Congress decided to boycott Simon Commission. And wherever the commission went, okay, it was welcomed with a slogan, Simon, go back, and black flags. They used to show black flags and they used to give a slogan, Simon, go back. So what is Simon Commission? Simon Commission was appointed by the British government to review the progress and operation of Government of India Act 1919 and suggest the measures for the reforms. And this commission had 7 Englishmen. So I told you, Sir John Simon was the chairman of the commission. The Congress decided to boycott it because it did not have any Indian member and it gave slogan, Simon, go back. Let us move to the next question, that is civil disobedience movement. Now, this civil disobedience movement is from the third stage of our national movement, that is Gandhian stage. The civil disobedience movement was organized by Mahatma Gandhi in 1930. It was from 1930 to 1934. Okay, so Mahatma Gandhi, he organized Dandi March. Dandi is a village in Gujarat. Okay, from Sabarmati to Dandi village, Gandhiji, he went on march with his followers. So we call it as Dandi March. The civil disobedience movement is also known as Dandi March. And this Dandi March was organized to break salt laws. Britishers, they made some salt laws. To break those salt laws, Gandhiji, he organized Dandi March. So what he did, he went to this village Dandi, which is near the sea, and he made salt there. So we call it as salt satyagraha. The civil disobedience movement, Dandi March, and salt satyagraha, they are one and the same. Okay, so picketing, hartal, boycotts, okay, use of Swadeshi goods were organized throughout the movement. Okay, all over the country, people, they have organized picketing, like damaging the shops which are selling British goods, boycotting Britishers, hartals, and use of Swadeshi goods. I hope I'm clear with this. Let us move to the next topic. Next is Minto-Morley Reforms Act. Okay, this was the first act made by the Britishers, that is Government of India Act 1909, to satisfy the moderates. The Britishers, they made this act, which is Government of India Act 1909. It is also known as Minto-Morley Reforms Act. It is also known as Minto-Morley Reforms Act. Why we call it as Minto-Morley Reforms Act? Because it was prepared by Lord Minto and Lord Morley. Lord Minto, he was the Viceroy, and Lord Morley was the Secretary for the State of India. So through this act, they increased representation of Indians in the Legislative Council. That is the second house. The Indians have got representation in the Legislative Council, and they have also introduced separate electorates for Muslims. And through this act, many changes, significant changes were done in the legislative bodies in India. Many changes were done in the legislative bodies. Indians got more representation. Okay, as this act was made by Lord Minto and Lord Morley, we call it as Minto-Morley Reforms Act. Next is Constituent Assembly. At the beginning, I told you Constituent Assembly is the body of people which prepares the Constitution. The Constituent Assembly for India was established in 1946 to prepare a new constitution for India. If you remember, Government of India Act 1947, sorry, Independence of India Act 1947, there I told you, Britishers, they said 2 constituent assemblies shall be formed to prepare new constitution for both the countries. So in 1946, Constituent Assembly was established to prepare a new constitution for India. Rajendra Prasad, the first president of India, he was the president of this Constituent Assembly. This Constituent Assembly had 389 members. It took 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to complete the constitution. Jawaharlal Nehru, Sarojini Naidu, B.R. Ambedkar were some of the important members of the Constituent Assembly. Next is Drafting Committee. Now, this Constituent Assembly was divided into different committees, 6 different committees. One of the important committee was Drafting Committee. Now, this Drafting Committee was set up to draft the Constitution of India. To draft the Constitution of India, this Drafting Committee was set up on 29th August 1947. And Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of the Drafting Committee. Don't get confused. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, he was the president of Constituent Assembly, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he was the chairman of Drafting Committee. Now, this Drafting Committee had 6 other members like Syed Muhammad Saadullah, K.M. Munshi, okay, some of the members. Now, they have prepared the draft constitution and submitted it to the Constituent Assembly on 4th November 1947. The committee was established or set up in August 29, but it submitted its draft on 4th November 1947, and this draft was published. This draft was published on 21st Feb 1948. The draft was published on 21st February 1948. Now, let us now discuss the last topic, that is preamble. I told you when I was explaining about the Indian Constitution, I told you about preamble. Preamble is nothing but the introduction to the Constitution. Now, this preamble, it explains the aims and objectives of the Constitution, why the Constitution is made. That is explained. Every Constitution will have a preamble, and preamble declares that Constitution was self-made, that is made by the people of India, because if you see the preamble of Indian Constitution, it will start like this, like we, the people of India. It starts like this. So we say that it is self-made. Okay, here in preamble, it is starting with the words we, the people of India. So when we say we, the people of India, it is reflecting that it is made by the people of India. Now, this preamble of a constitution, it ensures liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice to all the citizens. So all the citizens of India, they enjoy liberty, freedom, okay, equality, that is, there is no discrimination, fraternity, there is brotherhood among the people, and justice, no person except for the violation of law shall be punished. Okay, and it also describes India as a Soviet, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. This is what I explained you before also. Soviet means India is an independent state. Socialist means the government of India works for the welfare of the people. Secular, we don't have any official religion. Democratic, the people of India, they elect the government. And republic is the head of the state. The head of the state is elected. We don't follow hereditary system there. So the Constitution of India, it starts with preamble. With this, I end my session here. We'll continue in the next class. I request all of you to learn the answers and write it down. Unless you write, you won't learn it. So writing is very important. The more you write, you will retain the answers. And one more thing, when you're learning the answer, try to question yourself. Like, for example, what is preamble? First, question yourself, what is preamble? It is introduction to the Constitution. It explains about the aims and objectives. What does preamble explain? It explains about the aims and objectives. So like this, question yourself. The more you question yourself, you will understand it better. Thank you very much.